lawyers, non-lawyers, and judges, of course. When Tina texted me and emailed me the other day, I thought, oh, they're just getting back to me about the September raffle. I thought maybe I won. But no, I'm proud and happy to be here, but that's what I thought it was, Tina. I always buy tickets, so next year I'll buy tickets again.
Next year I'm winning.
Yes, I'm here because I know a little bit about the 73rd District Court, so thank you for asking me to come and share a few little tidbits of when my husband was there from January 1989 to December 2009. He had just finished his 20th year, or was finishing his 20th year. Judge Andy Mireles. And it was interesting because I know, well, first of all, let me ask, how many of you either appeared before him or had a hearing before him and survived?
Barely.
Right, you know what I'm talking about, survival.
Every time.
Well, bless you and thank you for surviving. I'm sure you have a lot of stories to tell me. I come across people that still, as a matter of fact, even Saturday somebody was telling me a story that they had with him. And he was very knowledgeable of the law. He was tough but fair. And some lawyers liked him and some not so much. I don't know if you want to raise your hand for that or not. You don't have to. I won't embarrass you. But you wonder, well, why? Why did they not like him? Or what was the problem or whatever? Well, again, like I said, he was tough. He expected attorneys to come before him to be prepared and on time. He had high expectations, not only for himself, but for the court, for the 73rd District Court. And I think we should all expect that from every court and every judge, to have high expectations, to show up for work. And I know there's a lot of times that people have now Zoom meetings, or I don't know if you actually go down to the courthouse anymore, but just the fact of showing up to do your job and know the law. Do y'all agree with me?
Yes.
Yeah. Because we as taxpayers, we're paying those judges. And I know we have 3 excellent women up here. Y'all are gonna have a tough decision for the primary, and good luck with that. We're anxious to hear you all. One other thing that he would stress is, as a judge, and I think Judge Canales does a good job of that, is to play well with others, help the other judges out. I know one incident where he was at presiding, and maybe you've been there, Judge Torres, with this, not this particular incident, but you've gone through this where there's so much going on and you need help. You need the judges to come down and help, or call down, hey, send another case up or whatever. So there was this one judge that happened to take the afternoon off to go play golf. And I don't know how Andy did it, but he called him over and told him, you need to get back here, we need your help. I don't know if he was the only one that was able to get away with that, but he did it. So those are some of the qualities that we need from a judge. So thank you for having me. I appreciate all those little stories that people tell me about Andy. They bring a smile to my life and our family's life. Now, help me welcome the current 73rd District Judge, who's hardworking, family man, shows up for work, and is a good person and knowledgeable of the law. Please help me welcome Judge David Canales.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Margaret. We appreciate you joining us tonight. Thank you to MABA for putting this together. I appreciate having been asked to moderate. I know some people have asked, why are you moderating? I said, one, I was asked, and two, I couldn't say no because I'm afraid that the person that asked me, I'm not going to say who she is, but I'm afraid she would have held me in contempt. So I said yes, no, and three, honestly, I agree with what Margaret said. We've got three excellent candidates on the Democrat side, and you certainly are going to have a difficult choice to make. And so it's my privilege to be able to sit here, ask a few questions, and hopefully give you a little bit more information, insight, or let them give you information, insight about who they are, what they stand for, and why they believe they're the best candidate to then take the reins of the 73rd come 2025. And so I appreciate the fact that many of you have been in my camp supporting me, some from the beginning, back in 2011 when I first announced I was going to run, and then assumed the bench in 2013. Still finishing my 11th year, but it's been just about 11 years this year that I've been on the bench, and it's been just an incredible journey, an incredible honor. Honestly, Margaret, the shoes to fill with Andy were very huge and difficult. I honestly believe, I don't think I've filled them even yet, but I do try. And so that's all we can do, right, is hope to be, as good or better than the people and the predecessors ever there before. So Andy was certainly everything you said. I was as afraid of him as anybody else. I filled his bench after he passed away, so I didn't get a chance to work with him or work together with him, but I'll tell you, I probably would have been just as scared of him working with them because he did, But the truth is, the fear wasn't so much being afraid of him. It was he expected lawyers to be prepared. He expected lawyers to be knowledgeable. He expected lawyers to be professional. It's that simple. And so those are the sort of things that I hope I've embodied as a judge. I don't expect people to do anything different than I would have done as a lawyer or that I did when I was in practice. And so hopefully, and I imagine that all of our candidates here are going to embody the same sort of principles. And so with that, I will say I've got a ton of questions. We solicited questions from people through the MABA, right? I believe MABA asked its members for questions to ask. So I just want everybody here to know, and the candidates as well, the questions I'm asking have been posed by somebody else. Some of them may seem a little different or weird, but one of the things is that this is a candidate forum with a great organization where we want to, establish that, who you are and what you're about and whatnot. And so take it in stride. I'm glad I'm not having to answer some of them, but anyway, I'm kidding with you all. But all that to say, I'm going to go ahead and get started. So thank you so much for the chance to be here. All right. No, you're good. Thank you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start. We'll start with Danique, then we'll go down, and then I'll kind of just do the best of cycle. As you all know, one last thing. Of course, I can't endorse any particular candidate that's here. So so I will absolutely be neutral here. So please don't take any comments or anything I say as an endorsement of a particular candidate. Okay. All right. First question. Again, going to Danique. Was there anything in particular that made you decide to run for judge?
Well, first of all, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Danique Hernandez, and it's a pleasure to be here with all of you. As far as what made me decide to run, this was something that I decided very early on in my legal career, when I was a baby lawyer at an insurance defense firm, and it was through cases that I worked on that I realized the impact that our judges have, and getting to practice before some of the judges here in Bexar County just made me realize that was something that I aspired to do one day. And so from that moment, I made that purpose with every single step that I took in my career, including after 8 years, making the decision to make a change and take that risk. And I ultimately decided to leave a place that I loved, people that I loved to work with, to go and work on the other side, so that when I decided to make the decision to run, I had that experience. I could tell people that I knew what it was like to represent people on both sides of a case. And so I'm proud that I'm here today with that experience and ready to take this on.
All right, thank you. And I apologize, I should have asked them to introduce themselves, and I do know them all personally, so it's hard for me to call them Miss Villaseñor Hernandez or Miss Ramirez or Miss Martinez, but maybe that might be appropriate. But if you would, Ana Laura, in connection with answering the question, if you would introduce yourself a bit to the audience as well.
Yes, hi, Ana Laura Ramirez, and I want to thank MABA for doing this. I have been a member of MABA for probably more than 10 years, and I really appreciate this organization. I was the recipient of the Legal Professional of the Year Award from MABA a few years ago, and I'm very proud of that, so thank you for having me. With regard to my desire to pay it forward as a judge and pay it back to my community, I've been very blessed as an attorney for almost 30 years. Over these 30 years, I've been able to help a lot of families. I've been able to represent a lot of people. But I believe that as a judge, I can continue to do that, but in a different way, and truly pay it forward. The award that I received from MABA said that I was receiving that award because of my commitment to the community. And this is just a way for me to continue to do that. Also, and kind of more on a personal note, my father always told me as a young girl, and my father has been deceased for over 20 years now, so he was very special to our family. But he said, one day you're going to be a lawyer. And I said, oh, Dad, you know, and he goes, nope, you're going to be a lawyer and you're going to be a judge and you're going to help the people. And so that's something that has always been in the back of my mind, and it's always been a goal that I've worked towards. And after 30 years, I feel like it's my time to actually do it, and to fulfill his dream for me and my own dream for myself.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Hi, my name is Elizabeth Martinez. I am running for the 73rd, as you know. And the reason why I was inspired to run is I grew up from very humble beginnings here on the west side of San Antonio. My mom, it was a single mom, and we struggled. And I grew up feeling that I did not have a voice on the west side, or the people did not have a voice on the west side. So I knew from a very early age that I wanted to be the type of leader who understood lived experiences. And I bring that to me in this campaign, and I will bring it with me on the bench, because I want everybody to have their fair day in court. It doesn't matter what side of town you grew up on, what high school you went to, who your parents are, and how much money they have. You have come to the 73rd with a problem, and we are going to solve it. We are going to listen to you and make sure that you have your day in court, your fair share. So I have dedicated my career to public service. I am also a magistrate judge part-time. I was appointed by the mayor and city council. So this is the next step to be able to fulfill that legacy that I have imagined and dreamed of since I was little. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Let's continue with this with this next question, and I'll start with you, Ms. Denise. Is there any life lesson your parents taught you that you feel helps you in your job today, inside or outside of the courtroom, that you might be able to use when you get on the bench if you were to win?
Is that me?
Ms. Hesworth, or Ms. Rodriguez, I'm sorry.
Okay, that's okay. Okay, so life lessons from my parents. Oh my gosh, there's so many. And so one of the things that I recall when I was younger was I was lucky enough that my dad worked for the Department of Justice, and we lived all over Central and South America. And we were able to spend time with people who were in very high offices all over, these places where my father worked. And he liked to remind us that it wasn't about how you treated the people who were important or in power, but it was how you acted and treated the people who were not, at that level of society. And so I think that's sort of been a life lesson for me, is that I treat everybody the same. And those of you who know me and who've practiced law with me know that I am a very formidable opponent. However, I also treat everybody respectfully, and that's something that I think is rooted in how my parents, how they taught us. You know, we treat the wait staff just as politely as we would treat, you know, the president of Panama, right? Because that's where we lived in Panama. So that is something I think that I've taken with me from my parents and is a very important thing to me.
Thank you. Ms. Martinez?
Yes. Okay, so life lessons. Yes, my mother was a very hard worker. And I share this story because she was a cafeteria manager at Lanier. So I would have to wake up with her every day at 5:30 so she could open the school and start, you know, making breakfast for all of the kids that went there to Lanier. And she taught me the value of hard work and sacrifice and seeing through the obstacle a lesson that to be learned. So at the time, of course, who wants to wake up at 4 a.m. to go to Lanier, and I would have to sleep in the car and wait for her until, you know, it was time to walk to school. And she would always tell me, you know what, this is gonna pass. This is gonna pass, this is an obstacle, we're gonna get through it, and you're gonna put one foot in front of the other. And that's exactly what I'm gonna do when I'm elected as a 73rd District Court judge. I'm gonna put one foot in front of the other and take it day by day, work hard, and find through the obstacles a lesson. That is what my mother has taught me.
Thank you, Ms. Villaseñor Hernandez.
Can you hear me?
Maybe just louder?
So I am a first-generation Mexican-American. Both my parents are from Mexico, and my mother was a migrant farm worker in her teenage years. And she quickly realized that if she wanted to excel, she was going to have to go to school. And so at the age of 18, she decided rather than going up north with her family, she was going to stay behind in the Rio Grande Valley and go to school. And so when we came along growing up, that was the biggest thing for my parents, was to make sure that we understood the importance of an education, and that if we wanted to get further in this life, it was through an education. My dad does not speak any English, and so growing up, I was his translator, as for my grandparents as well. And so I have many memories going with them to the doctor's office. My dad is a farmer, so sometimes I would go with him to the local John Deere to help him get what he needed. And every single time that I did that, I thought, you know, I'm just a translator. I'm translating from English to Spanish and Spanish to English. But it wasn't until I got to college in Austin that I realized it was so much more than that. There are so many people in this country that cannot speak the language, and because of that, they feel like they don't have a voice, and they depend on others, and some don't have that person. And so that continued into my legal career. As a law student, I was part of the Civil Justice Clinic, and we would go down to the border at least once a month to either Eagle Pass or Laredo to provide services, legal services. And most of those people on the border were Spanish speakers, and I was the only Spanish-speaking law student at the time. So I was usually the one sitting at every single group going, and so that has continued on in my career. And every single time that a client comes in and I sit down with them, I think about my dad. I think about my grandparents. You know, every time that I take a client into the courtroom, I keep that in mind. How do they feel when everything is being said about their case and they may not know what's going on? And so to take the time to explain it to them is something that is worth so much more to them. And that is what makes my career what it is. You know, I love going home at the end of the day knowing that I have helped somebody, and even if it wasn't the outcome that they wanted, they know that they at least had somebody fight for them.
All right, we all know that judicial temperament is important. So how, in 3 words, how would your friends describe your temperament? Ms. Martinez, I'm going to start and come back this way.
In 3 words, my temperament: calm, collected, and intelligent.
All right.
Kindness, kind. Is this working?
Sounds like it is, but it's a little low.
Yeah, okay. Kind, sensitive, and fair.
All right. Do you mind handing her the mic for this?
I would say calm, deliberative, and fair.
All right. Ms. Senor Hernandez, and going down the line, how many years have you been practicing as a lawyer?
So I am going on my 13th year as a lawyer.
All right. Ms. Ramirez?
I have been practicing, let's see, November the 4th was 29 years. So, but I've only been in my own private practice. Okay, I've only been on my own private practice as a sole practitioner since 2002.
13 years as well.
All right. One of the questions was, have you ever had experience as a solo practitioner? And if so, what is it? So Ms. Ramirez, we'll start with you.
So as I just stated, I worked during law school. I clerked for a firm, and then they hired me, and I worked for them for quite a few years. They were a general practice firm, so that's where I did, immigration and bankruptcy and business formation and real estate and all of that kind of stuff. But in 2002, I took a leap of faith and decided to hang out my shingle. And my first office was on the west side, on Culebra and Callahan. And I hung out my sign and I said, "Se habla español." And I waited for people to walk in my door. And I took almost everything that came in the door. So you have a personal injury case, I'll take it. You have a divorce, I'll do it. And so I basically just took everything that I could to, keep the lights on and learn the law. And so since 2002, I've been on my own. And in the last 20 years, I would say I have focused more on family law, but I've done criminal law and all kinds of things on my own. But so I guess you would say since 2002, a little over 20 years, I've been a solo practitioner.
Thank you. Ms. Martinez?
No, I have not had the pleasure of having my own solo practice. I have worked for a firm, and then from there I went to government work. So I've been doing government, given my career to government work for a majority of my licensure.
All right. Ms. Senor Hernandez?
So my entire career has been at either a firm, I would say either a small firm or a mid-sized firm.
All right. What area of law have you practiced in most, Ms. Senor Hernandez?
So most of my practice has been personal injury. Like I said, I started out on the defense side. For 8 years, I did mostly commercial vehicle and trucking litigation. And then in 2019, I switched over to the plaintiff side, but still doing personal injury. And a majority of my work has been work injuries. So anything from crane accidents, forklift accidents, oil field explosions, things like that.
Ms. Martinez?
So I started off doing workers' comp, and then, like I said, I went to government. So it was mostly family at the beginning. I was a staff attorney for the DRO. I was a prosecutor, so I did criminal. But now I am a staff attorney for actually the 73rd and all of the civil district courts. So a majority of my practice is everything that's filed in civil district court, whether it's family, personal injury. I mean, the questions are so varied from the judges that I have to be knowledgeable on every aspect of every case that is filed in district court. So I'm going to say all of it, everything.
Ms. Ramirez?
Yes, I think I answered it sort of already, but
You
can you say it again? I know.
answer
Could you
it.
just could you say it one more time?
Overruled, but that's all right. No, I'm kidding.
Oh my God, I'm having flashbacks of Judge Morales.
What? There we go. Woo! I gotta take a moment there. What area of the law have you practiced in most?
Okay, so I have to say the majority of my practice has been family law, but as I stated, I've done a little bit of everything. There was a time when I did quite a bit of criminal. I've had felony jury trials, serious cases where my client's looking at life in prison. I've done, traffic tickets. I've done, simple wills. I've done, 3-week jury trials over a will contest with one of our distinguished judges here who is co-counsel with me. So I really have done the whole gamut of pretty much every kind of law you can think of. If you want to start a corporation, I've done that. If you need to file for bankruptcy, I've done that. If you need, if someone in your family has passed away and there's no will, I've done that. So I've basically done a little bit of everything, but my love is family law. And the best thing that I've ever done is amicus work. And I know a lot of people may not know what that is, but an amicus attorney is appointed in a family law case to assist the court in determining the best interests of children. So I get to meet the most amazing kids. I get to talk to the kids who are going through where their parents are divorcing and so forth. And that, to me, of all that I've ever done, has been the most rewarding and also the most special. And so that's a little bit about my practice.
All right. Bearing in mind again that these are questions that our members have asked me to ask you as a panel. Continuing with you, Ms. Ramirez, how many contested family law matters have you handled in your career? A good estimate is fine.
So I'm going to say thousands of contested law matters, probably. My practice is very, high volume. And so there are days when I have 4 or 5 cases a day, sometimes more, sometimes not that many. But so I would say, if I looked at an average over all of those years, I just would say thousands of contested family law matters.
Ms. Martinez?
Family law cases, contested family law cases, an estimate, I'm probably going to say about 50.
All right. Ms. Villasenor Hernandez?
I would say over the course of my career it would probably be between 5 and 10.
All right. Continuing with that general theme, what is your experience in general civil practice litigation? I know y'all have touched on it. Again, if you could just elaborate just a little bit, Ms. Villasenor Hernandez, starting with you.
So the first firm that I worked at was Plunkett and Gibson. Then it changed to Plunkett and Griesenbeck. So they were a general civil litigation firm. And as a young attorney, the first 4 years, it was required that we basically work on everything. So I handled bankruptcy cases, probate, family law, medical malpractice, personal injury cases. Trying to think of anything else, but I handled almost all of that.
Ms. Ramirez?
Yes. So again, as I stated, without being repetitive, pretty much every type of civil litigation I've handled. Real estate transactions that go awry, personal injury cases, contract disputes, business entity disputes, collections. I've defended collections. I've done collections. From county court to district court. So it's pretty vast and wide array of civil litigation.
Ms. Martinez?
Yes, thank you. So civil litigation, yes, the same. Almost everything that's already been said to you. I was a litigator for the city of San Antonio. So anything that happens at the city of San Antonio, litigation handles, and I handle that from federal court, district court, county court, personal injury cases, contract disputes, all of it. So thank you.
All right, thank you all. And just for the benefit of the audience, I know many of you are lawyers, some of you are not. This is a civil and a family court bench, and so a view from the bench, if you will, and those of my those of you that are my colleagues, like Judge Torres and Judge Arteaga, would probably agree. The bulk of what we do is family law, but we do have a pretty significant civil litigation docket, and so percentages are thrown all the way out there. And so from my perspective, in terms of my time on the bench, I think probably do about 70 to 75% family law and about 25 to 30% civil litigation. So these are the questions our members are curious about, because as you all know, right, many of you that are members of MABA, your practices are varied. You do criminal, you do civil, you do family, but this particular bench handles the civil and family, and so we appreciate y'all elaborating and answering those questions. All right, I'm going to start with Ms. Martinez. How many jury trials have you handled as a first chair during your legal career?
19.
All right, Ms. Ramirez.
I have not counted, but between family law, criminal law, and probate, I would probably say maybe 75 to 100.
All right, Ms. Villasenor Hernandez.
So I have 3 first chair and several others as second chair.
All right. How much time will you give attorneys for voir dire and jury cases that get assigned to you? That wasn't my question. Obviously, once you get on the bench, you may end up determining what your style is, depending on which of you ends up getting elected. But any ideas on that? I'm going to start with you, Ms. Villasenor Hernandez.
So I don't want to say a specific amount, but I will say that just handling very complex cases in my career, I understand that some cases need more time than others, and so I think it really does depend on the attorneys involved, going through, all of the pretrial matters, seeing what issues are need to be presented during voir dire, that I think the judge and the attorneys can make that determination together.
All right, Ms. Martinez.
15 minutes general, 15 minutes specific. No, I'm just kidding. No. Again, I think Danica hit it head on. It depends on the case, okay? But we're not gonna spend all day picking a jury, right? We're gonna do it fast. We're gonna do it within the confines of the law, and we are going to get it done.
All right, Ms. Ramirez.
Yes, so voir dire to me, so people hire me at times just to do the voir dire for their case. And so I assist a lot of lawyers in that regard. And to me, voir dire is where it's the beginning of your case, and sometimes you can win and lose in voir dire. So it's very important. I don't believe in limiting it. Let me rephrase that. I do believe that it should be limited in some cases, but I also understand that picking a jury and making sure that you have the right people that are not biased, that is going to ensure that your client gets a fair jury trial, is going to be a really important thing. And so you can't say, okay, you got 2 minutes and you got 2 minutes, but you also have to move things along. So every case is different. And I think some jurors hate being in voir dire, and so you don't want to drag it on forever. But to me, you can win and lose a case in voir dire, and I think a good attorney is going to know how to hit the right important points. And if not, then me as a judge, I'm going to have to move that lawyer along to make sure that they move it forward. So that's my long answer to a short question.
Ms. Martinez, I'm going to start with you. What is your attitude about pro se litigants and how we should handle the influx of them at the courthouse?
Okay, so this question is probably near and dear to my heart because I deal with a lot of pro ses every day. And I think they should be treated with compassion. However, they are held to the same standard that attorneys are. There is a fine balance, okay, because we don't want the judges signing something that is void or that they don't have jurisdiction on. So it is a fine line, but I do think that pro ses are here to stay. It's just part of the practice of being a civil district court judge, and we have to treat them with compassion, and we have to get it right on the law. So with that, it's a fine line, but I think I have to commend all of the judges for how they handle it right now.
All right, thank you, Ms. Villasenor Hernandez.
So during my time as a defense attorney, I dealt with a lot of pro se plaintiffs, and so I understood how difficult it was for them. And so as a judge, I know it's going to be just as difficult, making sure that the law is followed, that they understand the law, that they understand that they are being held to the same standards as the attorney that they are going up against. But I think as attorneys and as judges, we need to make sure that they are getting their day in court as well, giving them the opportunity to make sure that they are heard. Because at the end of the day, if they are coming to the courts, it's because they've been wronged or they have somebody that they feel, owes them something. And so they deserve to have that time. And I think as a judge, we have that opportunity to make sure that they are treated fairly and with respect.
Ms. Ramirez?
Yes, so one quick story with regard to pro ses. I was in presiding court. The judge was calling the docket, and this older lady stood up and she said, "No hablo inglés." And the judge that was calling the docket that day looked at her, rolled her eyes, and said, "Whatever," and went on to the next case. She was a pro se litigant. She didn't have a lawyer. She didn't speak the language. She didn't understand what was going on. And there was several of us in presiding court, because I spent a lot of time there, who we made eye contact and we said, okay, we're going to go help this lady. And so I definitely understand how difficult it is to be a pro se. Yes, you're held to the same standard, but I also think that everyone deserves respect and to be treated fairly, whether they have a lawyer or not, whether they speak the language or not, and so that's just one incident that comes to mind in dealing with pro ses. But again, you also can't, I've seen some pro ses take advantage of the fact that they don't have a lawyer. So there's a balance, and I think just from my experience that I will be able to balance that and make sure that we're not being taken advantage of, but at the same time, people are given access to the courts that deserve it.
Thank you. Just so you all know, for those of you that don't know the term, I should have clarified it from the beginning. A pro se litigant means it's a person that represents themselves as their own lawyer in court, which anybody has got a right to do. But I can tell you, as a sitting judge on the bench, sometimes some of the challenges we have is they think that their Google law degree is a little bit better than my actual law degree. So we kind of have to balance that. I do believe, and I do treat pro se litigants or self-represented litigants fairly. The thing is, we are constrained because the law does not allow us to give them legal advice. It doesn't give us, it doesn't allow us to help them walk through the system. So it's kind of a delicate balance. But I appreciate all of y'all's answers, and it's just something that's I think somebody said is here to say, and that's the way it is. Because some people can't afford lawyers, some people can. They just choose to represent themselves, and they have an absolute right to do that in most cases. All right. For those of you that may not be familiar with our docket system, we don't, as individual judges, run our own individual courts on the civil side, meaning I don't have a docket of 2,000 cases that I set for hearing in my own court every day and move day to day to day to day. Everything in Bexar County runs through two different dockets, predominantly